Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Krista from Spirit and Thread, and today we're going to be making this wraparound crochet crop top. So for this pattern you're going to want size 3 or 4 worsted weight yarn. I love working with cotton. This is from hobby.com. A tapestry needle, scissors, and then a 4mm and a 5.5mm crochet hook. We are going to start with the 4mm crochet hook. And we're going to create our starting chain. So this will be the width of the piece that will wrap around you, minus a couple single crochet rows on each side. So this can be kind of made to measure, but I'm going to make a size small. For a size small, I'm going to chain 26. But for an extra small, you'll chain 20, small 26, medium 32, and large 38. So here I go, chaining for me 26. After I finish my chains, I'm going to chain 1 as a turning chain, and then in the second loop from the hook, I'm going to single crochet, and then single crochet in each stitch across until you have a single crochet in each chain. I just placed my last single crochet. And now for row 2, we are going to start making our moss stitches. I am switching to my larger hook. For me, that's a 5.5mm. I'm going to chain 2 and turn my work. And then I'm going to single crochet in the 4th stitch from my hook. So 1, 2, 3. The 3rd is the single crochet, and the 4th is the second single crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet. And these are moss stitches. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet. Continue that pattern until you reach the end of your row, and you want to make sure that your stitch count for your single crochet row ended on an even number. That's important because that will allow you to place your final single crochet of this moss row into the final stitch. I have 2 stitches remaining. I'm going to chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet in my last stitch. And that is my first row of moss stitches. So for all following rows, they're going to look like this until you begin decreasing. You chain 2 and turn your work. And then you single crochet into the next open chain space. Chain 1, single crochet into your next chain space. And you repeat this across your row. I'm reaching the end of my row. So I'm going to chain 1, and my final single crochet is going to go into the turning chain 2 at the end of this row. And this is how your project should be looking. So we'll go through one more moss row together. Chain 2 and turn your work. Single crochet into your next chain 1 space. Chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space, and repeat this across. And you are going to keep adding moss rows like this until the length of your rectangle that you're creating here reaches from the middle of your back to almost the middle of your front, minus about 2 inches. And when you're trying this on, make sure that you're pulling it kind of snug, not super snug, but tight enough as it will be when you're wearing it, because these moss stitches really stretch quite a bit. And you'll see that as you continue to work. My recommended row counts for our different sizes are: for a size extra small, I'd recommend 30 moss stitch rows. For a size small, I'd recommend 34. For a size medium, I'd recommend 40. And for a size large, I'd recommend 48. But again, use your own personal measurements if you want a perfect fit by trying it on and having this rectangle stretch from the middle of your back to a few inches shy of the middle of your front between your bust. So I finished my moss rows, so my piece is as long as it needs to be. And for the next row, you're going to begin in the same way, moss stitch across, but instead of moss stitching all the way across, you're going to leave the final chain 2 where you'd place your final single crochet, leave that unworked because we're going to be decreasing along this edge to create an angle. So for this row, I skipped my final single crochet. I'm going to chain 2 and moss stitch across in every stitch. So we'll be decreasing every other row. I moss stitched in each stitch across, and I'm going to chain 2. And in this row again, I'm going to skip my final stitch to continue to create this angle. So moss stitch into each stitch across, except for your final stitch. You'll leave that stitch unworked. I'm skipping my final stitch again, chain 2 and turn my work, and then I will moss stitch in each stitch across. So you'll see as we go here, we are decreasing the number of stitches in each row, and we're creating what kind of looks like steps on this edge. So continue alternating these 2 rows to create your steps along one end, and the other end is remaining flat. So you have an edge with steps and an edge that is flat. And continue to repeat these alternating rows until only 2 stitches remain. Here's a little progress shot, how your work should be coming along. So on this edge, I'm continuing to remain flat. On this edge, I'm adding more steps, and each row, I'm having fewer and fewer as I continue to decrease on this side. So continue this until you have only 2 moss stitches remaining. So this is my final decreasing row. I have 1, 2, 3 single crochet. So I'm going to decrease one more time. Chain 2 and turn. And my first moss stitch, my second. And that's where I'm ending my decreasing rows. I've created my steps on one side, flat edge on the other, and now I'm going to moss stitch across until I have a total of 15 rows with only 2 moss stitches in them. So chain 2, turn, moss stitch across, and repeat this until you have a total of 15 rows with just 2 moss stitches. I just finished my last row, so I am going to fasten off. And at this point, you can see our top is starting to take shape. So this is half of it. But this will wrap around your back, this wraps around your front, and this is going to cover your bust here. This will become the neck strap. So now we are going to repeat these steps to create a matching side on the other end of your single crochets here. So we're going to slip stitch onto one end of your initial chain row. And we're just going to continue to add moss stitch rows until we have the matching number of rows before we begin our decreases on our first side. So to place my first moss stitch row, I'm going to slip stitch to connect into this corner, chain 2, single crochet into my first stitch, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next, and repeat that across. We're going to chain 2, skip our first stitch where we slip stitched on, and into our second stitch, we're going to single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and repeat this across until you place a single crochet in your final stitch. I'm approaching my final stitch, going to chain 1, skip 1, single crochet into my final stitch, and that is my first moss stitch row of my second side. So I want to repeat the same number of rows that I did on this side of the single crochet on my new side. So we're going to chain 2, turn your work, and moss stitch across until you create the same number of rows that you created on your first side before you began your decreasing rows. So I will meet you back here once we're ready to begin decreasing again. So I repeated until I had the same number of rows on each side, and now I want to begin decreasing on the same edge that I decreased on for my first side. So for me, this is this edge right here. I moss stitched across, but I'm going to skip the final stitch, chain 2 and turn, moss stitch across in each stitch, and then begin your alternating rows where you are decreasing on one end and keeping constant on the other end. So for this row, I'm going to moss stitch in each stitch across. The next row, I'm going to moss stitch and skip my final stitch and repeat those alternating rows across. So for this row, I'm moss stitching in each stitch across, chain 2 and turn. And in this row, moving in this direction toward my decreasing end, I'm going to skip the last stitch. I'm coming to the end of my decrease rows. And I'm going to moss stitch in these 2 rows, skip my last, and now I've begun my 15 rows with 2 moss stitches. So then we're going to moss stitch back and forth until we have a total of 15 rows with just 2 moss stitches. Here's my 5th row. And meet me back here once you have a total of 15. I just finished my 15th row, and now I'm going to switch back to my size 4mm hook because we're going to be adding border rows all the way around our top. So first, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to work along this edge here with our steps. We want to create 2 border rows to create a straight edge across this. So to start, you're chaining 1, working along this edge, single crochet 1 into each moss stitch row. We're approaching our steps. So we are going to place 3 single crochet in every 2 rows along these steps, and that's going to help us create our straight edge. So I'm placing my first single crochet in this row. In this corner between these 2 rows, I'm going to place another single crochet, and then I'll place my 3rd single crochet in the 2nd row. So again, here's row 1, here's row 2. I'm going to place a single crochet in row number 1, in the corner between my row number 1 and 2, and then into my row number 2. So single crochet into row 1, single crochet into the corner between those 2 rows, and then single crochet in this edge stitch of row 2. Repeat that a few more times for you. And you'll see as we go, it's beginning to create a straight edge here. So continue to place 3 single crochet in every 2 rows along your steps. In your first row, the corner between, and in your 2nd row, into that chain 2 space that's open. Repeat this until all of your steps are filled, creating this flat edge. I placed my final single crochet in my corner here, and now I'm going to continue to single crochet once in each moss row along this long flat edge. And continue this until you reach the end of the flat edge and you approach your next series of steps. I'm finishing up my single crochet along this flat edge and approaching my next set of steps. I'm going to repeat those steps of 3 single crochet for every 2 rows to create my next flat edge. So single crochet into my first, single crochet into the corner between row 1 and row 2, and then single crochet into row 2. Single crochet into row 1, into the corner, and into row 2. And repeat these steps until you've placed a single crochet in all rows along these steps here. I finished up my flat edge, and now I'm going to continue to single crochet along what will become my neck strap here. 1 single crochet per row. I reached the end of these rows and I'm approaching this short flat edge. So now I'm going to turn my work 90 degrees, and in this middle chain 1 space along the edge, I'm going to place a half double crochet, and a triple crochet. And now I'm going to chain 40, and this is going to become the strap that will wrap around my neck. I finished my chain 40. Now I'm going to chain 1 as a turning chain, and then single crochet into each chain that I just made, moving back in the direction toward my top. So place a single crochet in each chain you just made, and I will meet you once you're done. I single crocheted into each chain, and I've reached the point where I'm back to where I placed my half double crochet, double, and triple crochet. In that same space that I placed those 3 stitches, I'm going to place them again in reverse order. So starting with a triple crochet, double crochet, and a half double crochet. You'll see how it kind of wraps around that edge here. And I'm going to single crochet into my first available row, and I'm going to single crochet into each row along this long flat edge. So this will be a long row. We're going to go all the way across here, and this will bring us to our next strap. I made this project in a solid color of yarn, but I'm starting to wish that I chose a striped yarn instead, because it's worked in rows. So imagine if this was a striped yarn, you would have natural stripes along your top. Just an idea. Maybe somebody else out there can do that and tag me and let me know how it looks. I'd love to know. All right, that edge took a while, but we are here at our next short end. For our next strap, I placed my final single crochet, and now I'm going to work in this middle chain space, place a half double crochet, a double crochet, and a triple crochet all in that space. And then I'm going to chain 40 again to create my next neck strap. I chained 40. I'm going to chain 1 as my turning chain, and then single crochet in each chain that I just made to reinforce my neck strap. I just placed my last single crochet, and in this same chain space I'm going to place another triple crochet, double crochet, and half double crochet, and that brings me back to my first single crochet of this border row. I'm going to slip stitch into that, and my first border row is done. I like adding a second border row to really reinforce these edges, make them nice and flat and clean. So I'm going to chain 1, flip my work, and create another border row, moving first in the direction of your narrow strap here. So in all of my strap stitches, including the half double crochet, double, and triple crochet, I'm just going to slip stitch instead of actually single crochet. And I do that because if you single crochet in here, it gets a little chunky, a little hard to tie around your neck. So go ahead and slip stitch in each stitch along your neck strap until you reach the top of the strap. I am slip stitching in my final stitch of this row, and then I am going to chain 2, turn my work so I can start to slip stitch across this next edge and slip stitch in each stitch on the other side of your neck strap. I am slip stitching in my triple crochet, double crochet, and half double crochet. And then in my first single crochet, I'm going to begin single crocheting in every stitch. So for the remainder of this border round, I'm going to single crochet across my long flat edge. Once I get to the half double crochet, and triple crochet of the next strap, I'm going to slip stitch into those, slip stitch around my other neck strap, slip stitch into each of these stitches here, and then beginning in the single crochet, I will single crochet in each stitch along this entire edge up until I get back to my neck strap where I began this border round 2 and slip stitch into this first stitch. I'm finishing up this round, placing my final few single crochets, and then once I get to the first stitch of this round, I'm going to slip stitch into it and then fasten off. So at this point, I would recommend pausing and sewing in all of your ends, and then I'm going to walk you through a couple additional steps to secure your top while you're wearing it, but once you sew in your ends, you could technically be done. To put your top on, you're going to wrap it around yourself like this, with this side around your back, and these sides wrapped around your front, and then tie the neck straps around your neck. If you want a little extra support here where your cups will come together, I'd recommend adding a bit of support here, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Especially if you're more busty, you might want some extra support. To do that, we're going to continue working in our 4mm hook. Take your top flipped upside down and turn it over so you're working with the right side facing you along the center seam along your back. And slip stitch to connect. Now we're going to single crochet in each stitch until we get toward the front of the top, close to where our decreased rows began and where we created this angle. So single crochet along here until you're approaching this corner edge here. I'm approaching the corner where my angle begins, and I'm going to single crochet up until that corner. So for me, I'm going to say it begins right here. Single crochet into that stitch where you really begin to notice the angle. And now I'm going to chain to reach the desired distance between my 2 cups. So you might want to put your top on and measure what that distance will be for you. For me, it's going to be about 10 stitches. So I'm chaining 10. And I'm going to connect onto the other side where my corner begins, where that angle begins on the second cup. So for this side, it begins right here. Going to single crochet to connect, and you'll see I've just made this bridge between my 2 cups. Now I'm going to finish this round by single crocheting in each remaining stitch up until I get to my first single crochet. I am slip stitching into my first single crochet, and that is round 1. So at this point, I might recommend trying on your top, making sure that you can fit this over your head, because to put this top on, you're going to put it over your head, and then this will go beneath your bust. So if you can't get this over your head and your bust, you might want to make your waistband a bit bigger. Or if you notice it's too loose, then you can make it a bit smaller. So once you're ready to proceed, we're going to add round 2. So I am chaining 1, and I'm going to single crochet in every stitch around, including my single crochet and the chains that I made between my cups. I've reached my chains, so I'm going to single crochet in each chain across. This gives a little more stability. And after my final chain, I will continue to single crochet in each single crochet around until I get back to the start of this round, and then I'll single crochet into my first stitch. Single crocheting into my final stitch, and then slip stitch into my first. So at this point you have a few options. You can fasten off and be done. You can add alternating double crochet and single crochet rows to add more length to your waistband here if you want this to be more of a bralette instead of like a bra swim top. What I'm going to do is add some scallops to add some fun texture, because I'm going to attach some metal chains and some beads and charms to make this a bit more fun. So if you want to do the scallop stitch version, I'm going to chain one and single crochet into my first, and then repeat this pattern around. Skip one, place 2 double crochet in the next, then picot, double crochet 2 more times into the same stitch, skip one, and single crochet into the next. I like this type of scallop shell stitch because it gives me a nice point where I can attach some beads or chains. Let's do that again. We are going to skip one, place 2 double crochet in the next, then picot, so that's chain 3, slip stitch into the first, double crochet 2 more times into that same stitch, skip one, single crochet into the next. And I'm going to repeat this around. I might fidget with my shell counts once I get to the front middle of my bralette, because I want there to be a shell placed neatly in the middle of that chain 10 space for me. So I might skip one more or one fewer stitches just so I can place that shell perfectly in the middle. But besides that, you should be ready to continue to work these shells around, and I will meet you back at the beginning. I'm reaching the end of this round and I don't have enough stitches remaining to do another complete shell. That's okay. I'm just going to single crochet in the remaining 2 stitches, slip stitch into the first, and fasten off. Now at this point you can sew in your remaining ends and you are done. I will probably add some fun beads and chains to the base here, but if you are happy with this as is, you're ready to try it on and you're all set. So I just put this over my head. It was a little snug, but you want it to be a bit snug so it's tighter around your waist. And you have your straps pulled like this and tied around your neck. And that is how you'll put your top on. And here's a version where I did some bedazzling with beads and chains. I hope you love this tutorial. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more like it, and happy crocheting. See you soon.